Okay, so for those of people that are watching that don't know, who are you?
My name is Juan Ramos. I am owner, creator, CEO, everything. I'm the creator of DMKD clothing, based out here in Dallas.
So what do those four letters stand for?
The four letters is an acronym. So when I started the brand, I really couldn't pick on one specific name. So I decided to incorporate the best attributes that I felt like an entrepreneur or somebody who is, the whole purpose of a brand is, you wanted to create something new. So these are the four letters represent attributes that I deemed important or that I held very dear and close to myself. So the D stands for determination, the M stands for motivation, the K stands for knowledge, and the last D stands for drive. So I felt like, you need all those four attributes, or those four attributes are really important whenever you're wanting to, start a business, live out a dream, whatever you want to do. I felt like those attributes are really important to have, and I wanted my brand to represent that.
I think that's really cool how not only are those four words very prominent when you are, when you're just living and doing things that are important, but I think it's really cool how they came together so cleanly. I think the way that your letters are portrayed, not only on your clothes, but just like when you see it, it's like, what is that? It makes you wonder, even though it's just letters.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that was one of the main purposes too, is I always want to evoke a thought. I always want things to be perceived, not by just myself. I want people to take inspiration or perceive or make up their own idea of what it is that they're seeing. So the MKD could stand for determination, motivation, knowledge, drive to me, but it could stand for something else for somebody else. And also it starts a conversation, asks a question, and that's, I feel like, that's very important in life, is to ask questions, be curious, and to explore more. So that, I think that's the brand that's itself, does that.
For sure. And the first time that I saw your brand, I think it was 2016. You started, I think your Instagram goes as far back as 2014. Is that when you actually started, or was it earlier than that?
No, actually, yeah, started in 2014. DMKD as the brand. I moved out here from California in 2014. I used to manage a brand out in California as well. It went under the name of Dem Kids. And at that time, I was trying to rebrand, because back then it was very simple, just prints, the graphic designs. So when I came out to Texas, I rebranded under DMKD again, and I just thought about, what I really wanted the brand to represent, because I didn't feel like it had direction at that time. And in 2014 was a big year for me, because I had left my family behind. I started something brand new and something very unknown. And I wanted to make sure that the brand or my company highlighted those milestones in my life. So in 2014 is when I officially started the brand, and in 2016, to your point, that's when I actually started promoting it. So I did start it personally. It was more like a hobby in 2014. It's something that I was exploring, looking to see finding manufacturers out here, finding screen prints, finding sourcing material, things like that. And then I took a little bit of a break because I did have a newborn child at that time. So I put that to the side. And in 2016 is when I really pushed myself to, make this a reality, start putting in more work, start networking with people. And that's when I started getting more into the Dallas scene, going to more events, shows, things like that. So it's been a roller coaster. It's been a journey, but it's definitely been one that's worth it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like you've been able to do a lot of growth personally as well within your brand. What are some things that you kind of had to tell yourself when you were kind of switching your mindset, okay, now I'm going to focus on this. Now this is something I can take into my own reins and really explore. What are some things that you kind of kept reminding yourself as you were going?
No, definitely. Well, one of the biggest catalysts to me taking that big step into, okay, this is going to be full time, has been my partner, Kim. She's, she's always been a very motivational. She's always held me accountable, to my mistakes and, to things that I may not be making the right decisions to. But I think one of the big proponents that continues to make me keep moving forward and pushing forward is just my drive. My parents, I'm a child of immigrants. I'm Mexican and my parents came from Mexico, but they came here with, a dream that they wanted to live better and provide better for their family. And that has been something that I've held dear to myself, and just wanting to continue to live out their dreams and legacies. They came out here with $0 in their pockets, with just a dream that they wanted to live better, provide better. They wanted to, to have a family unit. They wanted to live better than the opportunities that they had in their country. And growing up as a kid, seeing my parents work 12-hour shifts, just hustling, just finding ways to get money and just not giving up, that's something that was integrated in me really early. And that's something that I continue to implement with my company, with my brand, never settling for less, always wanting to push the envelope, always wanting to push my brand forward, not settling for just, the bare minimum. So going back to that, just the one thing that always keeps me pushing is my family, wanting to provide better for myself, for my son, my daughter, my parents, my girlfriend, everyone is just wanting to do better. So just every time I lose motivation, I always think, what's the end goal? What do we want to accomplish here? What would my parents do in situations like this? So that's really what keeps me moving forward.
That's awesome. And, I was going to say, after having a child of your own, it kind of hits you different.
Definitely.
And then, just watching over someone, you can just imagine how your parents were watching over you and their push. So I think it's really beautiful that you're able to not only take on, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but to take on those thoughts of how much your parents did for you on top of what you need to do for your child and make it into something not only that's going to support you and your family, but also it's something you love. How did you make sure, how did you first fall in love with clothing? Because you do from start to finish, if I'm correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So how did you even get started in all of that, with clothing?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've never been, well, not always. I've not always been the most fashionable person. I mean, when I was in middle school, I used to dress, just the rinky dink. I wouldn't put two thoughts together. Oh, I need to wear this with that.
I used to wear studded belts.
Well, yeah, I used to wear studded belts with, just different stuff. And I think my introduction to fashion or to clothing was through art first. One thing I always loved to do was draw. I always liked drawing. I was in graffiti. I got in trouble when I was in high school. I'd sneak out of school, play hooky and go, with my friends and, go, tag out some blocks and stuff like that. So it was just through art. When I graduated, my dad asked me, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to college? What are you going to do? And at that time, I didn't know. So I started thinking, what can I do that I love and make money off of it? That was the initial thought process. So as I started looking at clothes. Clothes, I'm very picky. I like picking up certain clothes, but I didn't like, for example, you go to the mall or you go to a store, you look at a piece and you like it, and you like the way it's built, you like the design, but there's something off on it. It's if it didn't have this, I would completely love it, so I'll put it back. And back then I was broke, so I had to stretch my money. So if I picked a piece out and there was something that I didn't like, I wouldn't get it. So I put two and two together. It's I know how to draw, I know how to create something, so I'm gonna make a clothing line so that way I can do the things that I like, and I'm gonna wear it because that's what I want. So that's where it started. It started with me wanting to introduce or implement my art, and be able to share it in a way that returns income. As I progressed, like I mentioned in 2014 when I moved here, that's when I used to go on Tumblr very often. I used to, Instagram was popping off. Instagram was the new thing, and I started researching other brands like Staple Pigeon back then, Black Scale, Nikki Diamonds, Diamond Supply. All those brands were popping off at that time, and then they started introducing cut and sew. So that's when I saw that clothing was more than just a print. It could be something else. You can interpret your own story within the clothing, and that really captivated me. I think that's what consumed me, and I immersed myself into that, and that has been my passion ever since. I wanted to tell my story. I've been wanting to bring people into my world in a sense of what I've been through. Not in a selfish way of look at me and look what I'm doing, but in a sense of look what I've been through, and maybe this can help you or inspire you to make your own story. So as you can probably tell on my Instagram, when I first started, it was just print. It was a couple of designs. They had a couple meanings behind it, and that was it. But as I progressed as a designer, as a creator, I've been wanting to put story into the pieces itself. So I've been I've dived in more into cut and sew, patterns, just textures. So things like that are very curious. Textures. I want to be able to tell a story through textures or through clothing. When you touch a piece of clothing, what feeling does that give you? What memories does that bring you back to? You could. To you, a Sherpa jacket can be just a Sherpa jacket, but to somebody, if you touch it, that takes you back to when you were a kid, when you were at the carnival, or whatever memory you had, right? So I just hope that I can create those memories for people, or create or share my story for others, for them to, take them back to whatever that memory was, right? So I feel like at this time, what motivates me or what keeps me going for clothing is just that, just creating stories through these pieces. And yeah, that's it.
That's awesome. Do you ever think of your clothes as being timeless?
I believe so. Yeah, for myself at least. Fashion it comes and goes. The unfortunate part of or the times we're at right now, or where we were before, was that it was fast fashion. Trends came and went. There was a summer, this was a trend, and it's gone, it's done. But I feel like not only with my brand, but with small businesses in general, the pieces are very timeless because it tells a story in time of the creator at that time. So all the pieces that I've had or produced have always been a step in my life where I've been. So, I'm human, so I've gone through depression, I've gone through ups, I've had successes, I've had losses. I made good decisions, I made bad decisions. And I feel like my pieces are timeless in that sense of, when I look at them, and those who have paid close attention, hopefully they can see it and say, this, I recognize this point in this person's life or the brand's life because this was what was being produced and things like that, right? So take my last collection that I released. That was probably one of the biggest collections that I've dropped, and I did a lot of work and research in paying attention to dyeing the garments. I did it all by hand. Outside here, like I have 2 big buckets of just dye that I just dyed, experimented. I spent a whole 2-3 months just learning how to dye and how to what materials to utilize, to get the perfect color that you're looking for. And something very simple like that, when you put it out, someone appreciates it, or someone even if just one person buys it, it means a lot, and it just holds dear to me because I appreciate that someone was able to look at the work and appreciate it, because there's a lot of other brands out there that you can buy from, and you chose to go with mine, and it's just because it feels like someone aligns with you, someone understands it. And I think that just alone, that feeling that someone understands it or someone sees the vision as much as you do, makes it timeless.
For sure. I was gonna kind of ask, what was your high in all of this? What's the thing that really just is your favorite about doing all of this, putting all the work in, yourself, and producing it, and then advertising it, and dropping whole collections? that's something big. So like, what is your favorite part about it all?
Creating. I love to create. I think when I ever have an opportunity to create, whether clothing, whether it is, helping friends, decorate their apartments or whatever, I just love the creative aspect of things. I like to bring something to life. A thought, just the idea that a thought in your head can turn into something tangible, something that you can hold and see and just look at and appreciate is just an amazing feeling. One thing that I always like to say is I just like to create dope shit. I just want to create something that is very cool, very, very unique in a sense of, not unique in the sense that it's original, but unique in the sense that the idea behind it and the thought behind it and the motivation behind it is unique, So someone can, for example, Tesla, they can create a car, right? A car is a car. There's multiple cars out there, but the thought process that went into that, creating that car, or the gadgets, the features, whatever is in it, is very unique in a sense that the person who created it thought of this and the other person did it, which makes that vehicle unique. And that's what really keeps me going. That's what motivates me. That's as you said, my high is just creating something that I know is very unique to myself. For example, this last collection that I'm going to be releasing very soon here, I obsessed over textures. I obsessed over the materials. I spent countless hours. I can't share how long I was on YouTube. I was on Reddit, just Googling, what are different materials, what goes into this, what goes into that, just wanting to learn the insides and outs of just fabrics, not even clothing, just fabrics, understanding how they work, what's the purpose of a fabric, and just being able to identify with the right ones to share my story with others. So just overall, creating is just an amazing process. And I think that if you take away anything from me, I think as long as I maintain my creativity, I think I'll be fine. So I'll find a way.
I completely agree with that. I would have to say the same. What would be advice that you could give to creatives out there that are maybe struggling or haven't even started yet as far as just being creative?
Yeah, just do it. Really. I know we hear that a lot and it's a lot easier said than done, but believe me, the worst thing you can do to yourself is doubt yourself. If you have an idea that you want to make happen, just do it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And that's something that's, overstated, but it's true. If you don't ever release something, you're never going to know if it's going to work. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Then you go back, you reassess, you reconfigure, you make some changes, whatever changes need to be done, and you do it again. If you don't start, you're never going to learn how to fail. And what I mean by that is you're never going to learn how to be able to overcome failure. So that's what I mean by you're never going to learn how to fail. So you can't be scared of failure. Failure is part of the process, unfortunately, and it hurts. It can be discouraging. I witnessed that. I've gone through that. But if as long as your intentions are really in the right place, if this is really what you want to do, then you're gonna be able to get back up, and you're gonna have that support system, those people who identified with your vision, and they're gonna be the ones who help you motivate you as well. Just keep moving forward. Just don't ever pander to anything. If you fail, don't give up. Don't feel like you need to change your vision or change your direction because the trend is this. You just want to keep trying to stay true to yourself as much as possible, but also be able to mold yourself to the environment. So be able to, accept feedback, make changes when changes are needed. So don't be solid as a rock, be moldable, but also don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, for sure. I always tell people that kind of come to me and are like, hey, I really want to do this, but, I'm nervous. It's kind of like, as much as you want to succeed, you have to want to fail. Because that's the only way that, like you were saying, like that's the only way that you can pretty much grow. If you're just constantly succeeding, it's kind of like you're not learning too much. You're learning, but to have those failures and, to be down at one moment and to see yourself get back up, that's when you feel strong, and that's when the success feels even better, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, I have one more question for you, but did you want to talk about any of your specific collections?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to highlight my most recent collection that I will be releasing late September, early October, which is something that I've been working through this whole pandemic, essentially. I decided to push it back as far as I could. One, because a pandemic is happening. I don't, a lot more important things are happening than just my collection, right? So I wanted to give, some time for growth for myself and, for others as well. I feel like, there could be some type of, I just wanted to be very empathetic to the situation. I didn't want to, I felt like that would be more like a selfish thing to do. So I wanted to give people more time to like assess everything and, what's going on in the environment. So that's the main reason why I haven't released anything for the entire year up until now. And also because I feel with fall, winter, it's a lot more, there's more that can go into it. It's more layering. There's a lot of stuff that you can play around with as well. So I felt like, taking a break would be nice, and also being able to deliver in a season that is, one of my favorites as well. So I've been working on this collection throughout this whole pandemic. I've taught myself how to pattern make, taught myself how to sew from beginning to end. I've taught myself how to screen print, taught myself how to make screens, all these things that, that go into making a brand. I've been able to dabble in, learn from, make mistakes from, lose money, get money from, all as much as you can imagine. And it's all just for part of the experience. So I could truly understand and appreciate the journey of a garment. I think that's something that is missed a lot, especially with fast fashion is, people think, shirts or clothes are just made like that and that's it. But truly understanding what all work goes into a piece of clothing is, very important and is very appreciated, the hard work that goes into it. Before I used to look at a shirt and just like, oh, that's a shirt. What's the cheapest shirt, or what's, the most better quality shirt, whatever, right? Things that go into your mind as you shop around. But when you look at a shirt and the way that it's constructed, now that you understand it, you appreciate it more, things that you appreciate, and that you take into consideration as you put it out there to the world. So that's one thing that this new collection, I paid a lot of close details to, the sewing pattern, the material that goes into it, how much work goes into it, the intricacies of the piece. So we have 2 vests that are going to be very unique to the brand, that were completely constructed from scratch. And, I'm excited to show everyone, what they are. There's been a lot of attention to, kind of what I've spoken throughout this whole interview, a lot of attention to the feeling of fabric, the flow of fabric, the textures, and just overall the construction. So this collection, I paid a lot of close details to just the layering process of it, how everything will fit, how cohesive it is, as well as the colors. I do typically stay safe on the neutrals with black and white, maybe gray. I introduce a little bit more colors to this just to give more vibrancy and give a little bit more depth to the collection. Whenever you're layering, more options. Every piece on this collection goes cohesively together, but it can also stand alone on its own. So I'm very excited to show everybody, everything that, has gone in behind the scenes for the past almost year now. And then the message behind it as well. It started off as Dreamers of America. But it's more in a sense of telling the story of a dreamer, of someone who, whose parents started from nothing and were able to create something and then continuing that story. So throughout the whole collection, the designs will have messages behind, you know, that specific journey, encouragement, or just in general, just the designs themselves highlight, you know, some type of struggle or some type of success. Just, you know, just overall, you know, overall message of, you know, just don't give up, just continue going. So very excited. Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm very excited. Cool. Well, my last question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years. Hopefully by then I would already have, you know, a manufacturing building. Well, in 5 years I just want to be everywhere that I want it to be. You know, I want to be, you know, financially stable and dependent on my brand, on my company. I don't want to work a 9 to 5, or I don't want to work for anybody else but myself. I want my family, everyone that's near and dear to me, to, you know, be able to accomplish what they want to accomplish as well. So it's not only about me. I want, in 5 years, I want everyone that is close to me to be in the same spot that I am. I want to be able to continue to create. I want to, you know, enjoy life. Really, that's the simplest thing. You know, it's not all about the money. It's about, you know, what you do with the time. And I want to be able to enjoy my time, really. So whether that means I'm rich or not, I just want to be able to enjoy my time and be able to fully create freely and have everyone around me do the same.